It's time once again for another thrilling episode of Markout Radio. For the next hour, sit back, pull the stick out of your ass, and enjoy. Be warned though, smarks and internet know-it-alls will be offended, annoyed, and generally pissed off at what's about to happen to your ear holes. You've been warned. Now, Markout Radio.
Welcome to Markout Radio. Holy shit. There are times when I hate this technology. So if you go into chat today, you can see all the match listings. Of course, they've been copied and pasted from my list. And of course, Twitch being super duper awesome has bundled them all together for you. But since my priorities are more on hosting the show than posting that shit, sorry. Just gonna have to sort it out on your own at this point. I can't put any more spaces. Producer boy, I'm telling you, I literally have triple spaces in the fucking document I'm copying and pasting from. And it just jams them all together. Figure it out. That's what you get paid for, right? Just figure it out. I don't want to deal with it anymore. Get it out of my face. Stop making me look at it. Jesus. Oh God. Speaking of conspiracies and bullshit and controversies. Now here's the thing. So last week, let's fade that fucking music up, producer bro. Will you please? Thank you. All right, good. Now, this is episode 83 of Markout Radio Goes Nitro. This is April 14th, 1997, out of the Core State Spectrum in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hosted, of course, by Tony Schiavone, Larry Zbyszko, Mike Tenay, and Bobby the Brain Heenan. Now, listen, before we get into this week's show, I have to address an actual flood of emails I got this week. Now, normally, my emails are usually like, F you. You know, that's not how that happened. That's blah, blah, blah. It's stuff that I've just sort of gotten used to over the years. And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But this week, my emails seem to have a theme. And that theme was that for years of this show, I have been playing a certain audio clip that I now somewhat censor.
We coming for you,
on Twitch. Jesus, take it easy. And I do that because of Twitch and only because I know that there's a little bit of a deal with Twitch, and they are a little bit twitchy about racism. Now, last week, I briefly recapped Spring Stampede 97, which is where that specific audio clip is from. Now, it's not as though I was trying not to draw attention to it.
For you,
Thank you, Jesus. It wasn't an oversight or anything. It's just that I kind of didn't want to, I don't know. I didn't want to make a big thing out of it because we have been using this for a long time.
We coming for you,
and every time there's racist, thank you, really? Every time there's a racist thing that happens in wrestling, every time there's, just some blatant, outright black racism that happens, which happens a lot, by the way. So much so this is the most played clip that I have. I got stats from how often these clips get played. This one gets played 4 times more than any other, including the intro. So the thing is that we've already got a strike on YouTube, so I kind of danced around it. But if you do have the network, you may not have actually seen that. So here's the thing. On the WWE network, if you watch Spring Stampede 1997, it's actually very well done. And Booker T screaming, "Hogan, we coming for you, sucker!" It's really good. It almost sounds like it belongs there. Now, when I pulled this clip, it was from the WWE network. I did not find that clip on YouTube or anywhere else. I pulled it right from the network because I wanted the cleanest piece of audio that I could have.
We coming for you.
Oh, Jesus. All right, here we go. Now, here's the thing. They did such a good reaction of it, but there's just no hiding Booker T's reaction to actually blurting out that on air, and Sherri just sort of laughing and rubbing his shoulders for him. But apparently there was some controversy around this, and here we go. And Glenn's in chat telling me that Twitch is trying to save my bandwidth by not letting me copy and paste properly. I could be it. Now, here's the thing. Hopefully this puts this controversy to bed. Obviously, I'll create other ones. I don't apologize for those in advance. I'll decide whether or not I apologize for them after the fact. So now you can all just calm down and untwist your collective panties. Let's get off the show, shall we? This is Nitro's 44th win in a row with a 3.5 to Raw's 2.2. For those keeping score at home, Raw held and Nitro lost 0.2 of a point, or almost 5% of their audience from last week's shitty ass fucking show. Now, this was a great show from a live perspective, Nitro. 16,256 in attendance, 15,132 paid a gate of $219,816 to be there, and WCW moved $143,352 in merch. Welcome back, merch stats. Now, before the show went on the air, there was a couple dark matches. The first one was Ice Train and Joe Gomez defeating The Extreme. I don't know where Renegade was. He's not hurt, and he hasn't been cut loose yet. I don't know why Ice Train and Joe Gomez would partner up, and I don't know why The Extreme, Ace Darling, and Devon Storm were in this match. Anyways, the other dark match made a little bit more sense. Feeling out a Medusa-Luna Vachon feud. Medusa defeats Luna Vachon via disqualification. Now, the show kicks off recapping last week's NWO drama, then DDP calling out Savage for round 2, and Sting's appearance and in-ring face-off with the NWO. Now, after the intro, Tony starts off things with a newly hair-dyed Larry, who does not have the awesome frosted tips that your boy here is rocking these days. However, they get interrupted by the NWO theme as Nash, Bischoff, Bagwell, Vincent, Wall Street, Norton, Syxx, and Fake Sting come out. No sign of DiBiase, and of course, no sign of Hogan. Nash cuts a promo on Luger and says that he does get a shot at Hogan, but he's got to go through Nash first. So that whole four-way dance at Spring Stampede meant nothing. And Eric being suspended and playing fuckery with what happens as a result of matches means nothing. Now, it's wrestling, so of course you've got to know there's going to be a swerve, but even at the time, there had to be better ways to do this kayfabe without just full on saying this is what we're gonna do because we want to do it because we're NWO and we're cool, I guess. I don't know. First match of the night, Chris Benoit defeats the Barbarian with Jimmy Hart in his corner. 2 minutes 35 seconds. I gave it 4 out of 5. No kidding. Barbarian comes out to new tights. Benoit comes out with his hand taped up and a limp in his left leg from a house show fight he had with Kevin Sullivan, which of course we all know was going to be way too fucking stiff. Right? Now, Barbarian rushes Benoit, who's shot out of a cannon, leans into that rabid Wolverine gimmick that he'll use more later, and the match is on a go. Now, at one point during this match, Hart trips Benoit from the outside. Benoit tries to grab him, but only gets the jacket. Now, Hart scurries away around the ring, but Benoit doesn't even bother chasing him. So when Hart runs all the way around the ring, he runs straight into Benoit, who pops him one in the face. And also gets a nice pop from the crowd. Barbarian's waiting, though, and gives Benoit a boot to the face from behind, and then tries to press slam him into the ring. Instead, though, Benoit bounces off the middle rope and crashes to the floor. Now, this is a fairly easy botch to cover, but after all of that action, it was just a matter of time on when the misstep would happen because things were moving very quickly. Granted, Benoit is able to do that, and granted, Barbarian's a badass, but when you move that fast for that long, someone's going to flub something up at some point. Barbarian performs a very impressive belly-to-belly toss on Benoit from the top rope. He misses his Tongan head dive, though, and allows Benoit to capitalize with his Canadian head dive for the win. Post-match, Sullivan, Morris, Konnan, and Jackie do a run-in. Not quite sure why Sullivan needed the velvet rope on top of his t-shirt and jeans, but there you go. Jarrett and Mongo make the save, and the Dungeon, in name only, bail. Afterwards, Jarrett and Mongo get heat from the crowd. Couldn't understand why, because the Dungeon was getting heat too. The crowd was just going to cheer and boo for whatever the fuck they were to cheer and boo for, and it's Philly, so you're just going to take it. Post-match is an in-ring promo with Gene and Benoit. Benoit gets a bop just for talking, but his promo fell flat, especially when Gene wouldn't stop interrupting him. Dean Malenko, after that, defeats Hector Guerrero to retain the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship in 2 minutes 54 seconds. 1 out of 5. Holy fuck. Generic wrestler theme number 6 brings out Hector, who, wow, this week, I mean, what do you even say about silver leopard print trunks and an ill-fitting silver blazer?
0 .0.
Fair enough, producer boy, fair enough. They brought Hector in because he's available and Chavo's hurt, and they desperately need to keep the heat on Malenko and Eddie for some odd reason. The best way to do this is to make this a Guerrero's and Malenko feud. No idea why, because it's not like Dean's dad can show up and back him up. Anyways, what? Okay, so he's dead. What the fuck? Is his ghost gonna come back him up? All right, then shut up, millennial boy. Talk turns to Bischoff and his legal dispute with WCW, which would happen a couple more times tonight, which again fell flat because it was stupid and it's a bad gimmick and it doesn't work. Another thrilling performance by Hector, who yet again wrestled like it's his first week in the sport. Oh. I really don't think that was worth it. Back from break, the camera heads out to the audience where Reggie White is in the crowd in full diva mode. WCW would do this from time to time. They'd invite in and sometimes pay a sports star to come out during a commercial break, kick paying fans out of their seats so they can pose for the camera like he's been there all night. He hasn't. He came out during the commercial break, but he's going to stay there all night. And 4 fans had to be moved so he could do this. Because if you watch, the camera sometimes isn't zoomed right in on Reggie, and you see the 2, whatever you want to call it, purple blazered security guards on either side of him. And during this, unfortunately, Reggie did not like being in the middle of the fucking mob like this, because fans were actually pressing in to try to get on camera. They could give 2 fucks if Reggie White's there. They were pressing into the camera, and the security guards are trying to keep him back to the point where on camera, and it's in the network footage, there's Reggie like literally shoving a security guard out of the picture frame so that he could be a little bit more front and center. So awesome. True diva form. Way to go. Rey Mysterio Jr. defeats Juventud Guerrera after this in 3 minutes, 24 seconds. I gave that 3 out of 5. Both Rey and Juvi rock a new ring gear. Rey gets a pretty cool springboard Hurricanrana that led to a pin that is actually deserving of the Castrol DTX slow-mo recap to end the match. Otherwise, it's basically what you would expect from a Juvi Mysterio match. Nothing wrong with that. Lots of high-flying, high-impact kind of stuff. It's just that this move was pretty much the highlight of the show. Well, up to that point. After that is Ultimo Dragon with Sonny Onoo defeats Lane Carlson to retain the WCW World Television Championship in 3 minutes, 44 seconds. I gave it 3.5 out of 5. Now, this is Lane's first match on WCW TV. He was trained in Eddie Sharkey's Pro Wrestling USA. He's been on TV before in WCW as a run-in save for some faces over the last couple weeks, including DDP. Since he looks so much like Jericho, his first program was following Jericho around in a few more months as Lenny Lane, imitating Jericho and his mannerisms. Now, the thing is, Lane's a solid performer, and he's got a good physique, but to quote my favorite booker of all fucking time here, he's got a weird face. And then Sullivan barks it into Larry's ear during this match so that Larry can repeat it on live television. Thanks. There are less subtle ways to bury a new wrestler, but Sullivan wouldn't bother with that fucking shit. Lane performs a very cool twisting backdrop on to the Dragon from the top rope outside. I think that the roll-up victory Lane was supposed to originally kick out of because it felt like some of the promos later on kind of dragged out a little bit, and it looked like Dragon was a little bit pissed off that the match ended where it did. I don't think that he didn't try to. I just think that he lost track of the count, and when he went to go kick out, it was already over. After this, Gene does a rant promo with Luna Vachon. Speaking of weird fucking faces and voices, here is Luna Vachon. She's the woman, and apparently she's the #1 contender for a belt that rarely gets offended in America or even on television. The only problem with the promo is that she's claiming to be the #1 contender to Medusa's WCW Women's Championship belt, and Medusa isn't the champ. Nor would she ever be. Still, with all the talent out there in women's wrestling in North America, there was really no point in leaving the strap on Hokuto and then claiming that because she left the country in June 97 that the belt was vacated and then awarded to another Japanese wrestler at a house show in September in Japan, which makes perfect sense, right? It makes perfect sense. It does. Yeah, I know. But this is where women's wrestling is and why Moolah held the WWF belt for fucking, 50 years, whatever the fuck the rating was. Syxx defeats Prince Iaukea in a World Cruiserweight Championship defense. 5 minutes, 41 seconds. This was actually another really good match. I give 4 out of 5. According to Larry, though, Syxx telegrams a move and Prince takes advantage. It's telegraphs, Larry, and you'd know that if the hair dye wasn't sinking into your scalp. Anyways, during the commercial break, Reggie White comes back out to watch so that he can get one shot of him emotionlessly watching this match. Another timekeeper / bell ringer botch here in this match as they start ringing the bell too soon. Syxx locks on the Buzz Killer, which according to Tony Schiavone, is a combination of a crossface and a chicken wing, which it's not at all. If it's anything, it's a half Nelson and an armbar. It's a very safe move. But unfortunately, there's no way to force someone to sell it for you if they don't want to. He's got his arm trapped here, and he's got his neck here. So the only way to force it is to try to pull his neck, like, off his fucking shoulders, which even if you're trying to force someone to sell something for you is not the best way to go. But the way he's reefing on him, it's perfectly safe. His neck is just turned like this. All day long, just stand there like that for a bit. I get a little arm cramp from being stuck like this for a while. Pretty safe, though. After this, Gene does an in-ring promo with Ric Flair and D'Artagnan. That's Kevin Green with some shitty facial hair. Anyways, they've left out Reggie to have a spot with Green. Piper is also going to come out at this point. By the way, the D'Artagnan reference is for my 4 wrestling fans in France. Gotcha. Now, Piper comes out. Gene starts us off by telling us that Flair, Piper, and Green will take on the NWO at Slamboree. We're really not sure who yet. We're 6 weeks out, and we're starting to build to the next pay-per-view, so at least that's good news. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Piper subtly calls the NWO gay because of the spandex they wear. Forgetting perhaps that not only does he wear spandex, but he also wears a skirt. So it's probably better to steer away from that particular landmine. Also because that's usually Hogan's go-to. Green looks confused, sounds even more confused when he's given the stick. Green was also being distracted by some troll at ringside who he keeps lipping off at. You wouldn't be the last tonight, though. There was a group of trolls. So if you're looking at the live cam out in front of you, they were sort of sitting over here, opposite from where the bell ring is, and they were on everyone. And most people were able to ignore them, except some people. Including Kim Page later. Holy shit. Wow. Like the camera actually picked up some guys screaming nice ass from ringside loud enough that the live camera on the microphone, not that they were wrong, just that they were loud and distracting. Anyways, then thank God this thing fucking wraps up with Flair, but god damn it, the camera finds Reggie White in the audience. No selling the shit out of this as we go into the break. After this, Public Enemy, Johnny Grunge and Flyboy Rocco Rock defeat High Voltage, Kenny Kaos, and Robbie Rage in a tag team street fight in 4 minutes, 37 seconds. Because, of course, it's a tag team street fight. It's Public Enemy. It's not like they're going to wrestle, and even the commentators make jokes about that. Gave it 3.5 out of 5, even though it was basically just a chance for Public Enemy to put people through the table legally. Anyways, there's a lot of bullshit that you can find online, me included. And all you got to do is basically just fart in the general direction of those people, and you're going to find all kinds of nonsense and bullshit out there. But one of the theories, the prevailing theories on Public Enemy coming out in Philadelphia Flyer jerseys that were hastily prepared jerseys was for a cheap pop. Now, I guess that perhaps those smart fans forgot that the Public Enemy are kayfabe from Philly, and the team was actually once called the South Philly Posse. So them rocking the Philly Flyers jersey isn't, first of all, hastily put together. They were 2 seasons old. But on top of that, they're kayfabe from fucking Philly. This was the hometown crowd, fuckheads. Anyways, the match, of course, because it's Public Enemy, was picture side by side, used heavily. Done well, of course, but used heavily. To their credit, High Voltage did well playing up the heel heat for this match when they're normally the faces. They sold a lot of wrestling, and by that I'm being very generous, that they don't normally perform. There was a pile driver from Johnny Grunge onto, who was it? Kenny Kaos, I think. Kenny sold like fucking gangbusters. It was good. Now, Public Enemy stacks some tables, one on top of the other. Rage helps him get them up there because he's on a bulk. And they get a hell of a pop for Rocco going through Rage and 2 tables. Post-match is a big pop and a great shot of the fans doing the arm motions. Okay, listen. Yeah, the Public Enemy are hardcore. And yeah, I actually enjoyed watching ECW. But they're not wrestlers. They're performers for certain, absolutely. But you know, when even Tony Schiavone is shooting on your wrestling ability, you know that you understand you're a performer, and it just is what it is. And I did like the Philly throwback. I did like the fact that the fans were super into them and super into their moves and super into all that shit. There was a couple ECW chants that started up during this, and ECW is still sort of in its infancy, so that's great. After this, the Giant defeats Big Al.
0.0.
Just under a minute. There's no entrance music for the Giant, which is actually pretty cool. Now, this is the second Big Al wrestler in WCW. Now, Alfred Poling, who was trained by Larry Sharp and went by the name Al the Sledgehammer, Big Al, Tombstone. He got jobbed out last year to the Giant as Tombstone. This year, he's going to get jobbed out to the Giant as Big Al. Now, here's the thing. Most 90s wrestling fans would better remember this guy as 911 in ECW as part of Heyman's own stable Dangerous Alliance alongside Sabu and Taz. At Hardcore Homecoming in 2005, he came out and chokeslammed Danny Doring in Roadkill, and there were a series of shows in 2005 and then again in 2012 as members of ECW's defunct brand tried to relight the flame of ECW popularity. None of the wrestlers still under contract at WWE would appear in either of these, which would include Paul Heyman, who was head booker in 2005 of OVW. And later in 2006 would put together his own WWE version of ECW One Night Stand, which objectively was excellent. I'm sure that one had nothing to do with the other, though. On the plus side, Heyman wasn't paying the wrestlers, so everyone got their performance checks, and they didn't get lost in the mail either. Al is such a big guy that the chokeslam for this match was really never going to look good. And even with a lot of help from Al, it still looked like garbage. He timed the jump right, and Giant even swept his leg with his hip as he went down. But it just basically looked like Big Al taking a shoulder bump. But again, the guy's 350 or some ridiculous thing. He's a big boy. And even though Giant's fucking strong, he's just not that strong to lift 350 with one arm, even with help. After this, DDP with Kimberly defeats Konnan in 2 minutes, 8 seconds. I gave that 2.5 out of 5. Cholo Heisenberg comes out still repping a culture that is not his own. Kim back to managing DDP and getting a solid ass slap as she takes his gear out of the ring. And now, the thing is, it's widely known that DDP was pretty much universally liked backstage, and that Konnan, despite having a head for the business, was universally disliked backstage. Now, Sullivan didn't really care because he and Konnan were of the same mind. Fuck you, you're going to sell for me and I'm going to make you if you don't. Now, I got to say though, when I'm watching this match back, it looked like Konnan was legit trying to get heat with DDP. There's the stuff with Kim was kayfabe, heat-seeking shit, and that's all fine. You know, motioning his crotch to her, you know, calling her hot, all that kind of shit. All that stuff is fine. It's kayfabe. It's open territory. That's good. But there's a point in the start of the match where Konnan no-sold an armbar to the point where Page had to step back, mouthed "what the hell" and like motioned with his arms. Are we going to do this or what the hell's going on? Konnan responds by giving him a stiff slap, which Page responds to with one of his own, and it appeared like this match was back on the rails until Konnan legit spit on Page after another tie-up. Now, I don't know, man. It was just weird. Konnan performs his work punches, but then he slipped in an elbow with that fucking skater pad that he does, and he legit knocked Page on his ass. Now, Page kept things professional at this point. Konnan does sell the Diamond Cutter hard, just laying in the middle of the ring. Post-match, Savage and Liz are out in the crowd, and Savage cuts a promo on DDP, who brilliantly heads out into the crowd, blowing past Reggie White, just to remind us all that he's still there. And even though DDP is going flying past him, Reggie no-sells that one too. So awesome. Yeah, let's put tights on this guy and put him in a pay-per-view match with another guy that's struggling to get over too. Cool. Let's do that. Thanks, Kevin. Really? Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Zero point zero. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0. 0.0
Back from break, the camera finds Ray Rhodes, the head coach of the Philly Eagles, in the crowd, actually eating a pretzel and enjoying the show. No red carpet treatment for him, though. He's not going to get in the ring and botch his way through a match. That golden voice bastard Lee Marshall calls in for the 1-800-COLLECT road report from Saginaw, Michigan, where Nitro is going to be next week. Lee's talked with Cadillac, and they definitely have no intention of ever building the Edelweasel. It was worth a chuckle. It was a dad joke, but Heenan's reply about buying it and then putting Lee in the trunk and driving it into the Detroit River was good. Tony shoots on it getting shitty gas mileage, which was also objectively funny. After this, Jeff Jarrett and Steve Mongo McMichael with Debra in their corner defeat Harlem Heat, Booker T and Stevie Ray with sister Sherri in their corner via DQ. 7 minutes, 6 seconds for that one. I gave it 4 out of 5. Booker gets distracted by the ringside troll. He is back again. Jarrett pulls him back into the match. Some fan on the hard cam side holds up an Undertaker banner, and we get another shot of Reggie no-selling the show as we go to break. Back from break, the purple-shirted security guards yank the Undertaker banner away from the fan, who then turn around, no-sell the whole thing by standing up and pulling open their jackets to show their WWF shirts underneath. I couldn't be sure which, but I'm pretty sure one of those was Mankind, and I think the other one was The Rock. Now, Sherri gets a pop. Now, they get shouted at by the security guards for doing this, by the way. But anyways, back in the ring, Sherri gets a pop when she gets her hands around Debra's throat after a briefcase juggling show during the match. The ref DQs the Heat. I can't figure out how that decision was made. Then there's a botch spot here that is just too funny. I mean, it's gold. Sherri has the briefcase and Debra's in the corner. Now Sherri very slowly raises and lowers the briefcase and at the last second snaps her wrist so that it makes that nice sound on the top turnbuckle. Unfortunately, because she was doing it so slowly, she missed the fucking turnbuckle, and when she snapped her wrists, instead of Debra getting out of the way like the bimbo moron that she is, she just dropped to her knees, and when Sherri snapped her wrist, she accidentally hit her the hard way in the back of the head with the fucking very real metal briefcase. And now Debra's back on her feet, and she's crying. She's crying.
Now you start using your head. That's that lump that's 3 feet above your ass.
Are you crying?
Are you crying? Are you crying?
There's no crying.
There's no crying in baseball.
Gene has an in-ring promo with Jarrett, Mongo, and Debra, who is dabbing back tears at this point. I shouldn't laugh, but it's woman on woman. That's all good. Anyways, apparently the Associated Press is now covering reports on wrestling, according to fucking Gene, but the match is signed for Slamboree between McMichael and Reggie White. Now, Mongo's promo was pure gold. The mouth breathers and the cousin fuckers were so fucking confused. He starts off by calling the fans idiots. Boo. Then he points out that Reggie left the Eagles to join the Packers and get a championship with them. Philly doesn't have a Super Bowl win. Where's their ring? And that Heat slowly moves over to Reggie. Now, the reports are mixed on here on whether Reggie was supposed to get into the ring or not. But JJ was out there all night long and decide, so it's impossible really to tell, but it got a hell of a pop. It probably was planned by Sullivan or maybe planned by Jarrett to help Mongo get some heat for his match coming up at Slamboree. No one shoved anyone, though. Reggie gets into the ring and they're nose to nose. Nothing actually happens until Mongo spits in Reggie's face, and then there's a very safe tackle takedown, and then just a lot of grappling and stuff, and then they're doing the guys holding back each other's gimmick, and that gets a huge pop, and then the fans decide that they like Reggie, and so they start chanting Reggie. I guess hating the Bears trumps hating a guy who left your team for a contender. You gotta love NFL fans. I mean, on the plus side, didn't really confuse them by taking a knee, so there is that. Luger defeats Kevin Nash in the main event via DQ. Coming down to ringside with him were Buff Bagwell, Wall Street, NWO Sting, Scott Norton, Syxx, DiBiase, and Vincent. The match itself was 4 minutes, 6 seconds. I gave it 3.5 out of 5. Luger is taking it easy on the baby oil tonight, and this match is still inexplicable. However, the payoff here is going to be awesome, so it is just worth to choke back Glenn's in chat telling me that was a cheap heat on the knee. Sorry, whatever. It's NFL fans. What do you want? So Let's bite back our annoyance a little bit, the rationale around the booking, and just sort of enjoy it as goofy-ass 90s wrestling. Now, the NWO take up lumberjack positions around the ring, which Tenay notes. Hey, look at that! The professor actually notices something that's helpful to the match. Look at you. The NWO caused the DQ, and then the beatdown starts. First on Luger. DDP does a run-in to try to save. He gets the beatdown as well. Giant comes out and has to back away because Nash has a lead pipe. Now, I gotta ask, why is it always lead? I mean, yeah, okay, a bronze pipe would bend too easily, of course, but I mean, most plumbing pre-60s was steel pipes, wasn't it? What? I'm getting a shrug from my millennial producer. Thank you. Always a big help. Sting comes out of the back with 3 bats in hand, passes them out to Luger, DDP, and Giant before climbing onto the ring apron and pulling a 4th bat from behind his back before getting into the ring. Undeterred, Nash takes a swing at Sting with the lead pipe. Sting ducks, bashes the back of Nash's knee with the bat as the other 3 run into the ring. The crowd is going ballistic at this point, and we fade to black on the WCW hopefuls in the ring, facing off and chasing, well, figuratively, chasing the NWO back into their corner. Now, again, that was actually an excellent episode of Nitro. Unfortunately, Raw also had a very strong show while in Africa, which has a lot of moving parts, even at that time. Now, there's still a group of fans that are switching back and forth, including me. Some of Nitro scores higher than Raw as far as the ratings go, like the main event. And so Nitro's higher in the main event, but Raw makes up some grounds because Raw was actually leading at the beginning of the night, because while we were getting a recap of last week's NWO shenanigans, Raw was showing us the Legion of Doom versus the Godwins as a result of last week LOD getting slopped. Now, Raw lost their audience towards the end of the show by also having the show finish with 3 DQs in a row. Now, Nitro ended with 2 DQs if you're keeping score at home, but those were top-tier performers. And Raw had mid-carders because everyone else was either injured, on tour Japan, couldn't get works permits for Johannesburg, or were just not booked due to political bullshit going on backstage. To be fair, though, listening to the Honky Tonk Man on commentary is a lot like listening to Debra on a promo. Nails on the fucking chalkboard. But if you compare the main events, Ahmed Johnson versus Biker Crush, that ends in a DQ. Let's also not forget a little earlier in the night, Goldust jobbing out to the Sultan, managed by Iron Sheik. Holy shit. I literally stopped watching at that point, Raw, because Iron Sheik's entertaining and shit, and the Sultan was an interesting gimmick for about 5.5 seconds, but what a clusterfuck. Here's the thing, though. I do love how Jim Cornette will shoot on Sullivan's booking when this is the shit that he helps to put together. Calm down, Karen. You also sucked. Still, Nitro was very entertaining this week. There's a lot of audience interaction, of course. Reggie, like most spot performers, sucked. He certainly was no Bad Bunny. But the conflict between he and Mongo looked very good. It'll go a long way to sell their pay-per-view match as long as they can manage to keep heat on it. 4 out of 5 for Nitro this week.
Well, that was an abortion of a show. Should the mood take you, check out markoutradio.com and leave a comment. You can also find links there to our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Stitcher channels. You can even leave a voicemail on our Skype. Just click the links and share them.